Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're diving into SpongeBob Tower Defense, you've probably noticed that all your units start off with just their base stats and no special traits. Now, while they're decent on their own, you'll want to spice them up with one of the 8 traits available in the game to truly make them shine. Trust me, a solid trait can make a huge difference in the battlefield, and today we're going to talk about which ones are the best, how to reroll them, and why they matter so much for your strategy. So, here's the deal. Traits are like that extra boost your units need to stand out, but not all traits are created equal, and some will definitely give you the edge over others. Whether you're looking for more damage, better defense, or something else entirely, finding the right trait is key. But how do you get the best one? Well, that's where rerolling comes in. We'll dive into the tier list for all the traits and give you some tips on rerolling to help you get those perfect buffs for your units. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to optimize your strategy and make your team unstoppable. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking traits in SpongeBob Tower Defense. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
A very small portion of the audience is subscribed to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe if you like these types of videos. Thanks.
The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Surge 1, Reach 1, Reach 2, and Reach 3. Alright, let's talk about some of the traits in SpongeBob Tower Defense that are, well, not exactly what we'd call game changers. You know those traits that seem like a nice idea at first, but are quickly outclassed by something better? Yeah, we're diving into the D tier, also known as the Chum Bucket quality traits. These are the ones you'll want to avoid if you're aiming to build a solid tower defense setup. First up, we've got the Reach traits, Reach Y, Reach 2, and Reach 3. These traits might sound good in theory, offering more range for your units, but they're actually pretty weak compared to other range boosting options. Sure, they can be handy on cheaper, early game units, but trust me, you'll want to re-roll these ASAP once you've got something rare or above. Don't waste time with them when you can get way better traits that will actually make a difference. Then there's Surge Y. It gives a slight damage increase, but it's really only useful for those low tier units that you'll replace in no time. It's a trait that feels good when you don't have much else, but once you unlock some of those cooler, stronger units, Surge I will start feeling more like a speed bump than an advantage. Bottom line, if you're serious about surviving the later waves, don't hold on to these D tier traits, swap them out and make space for the traits that will actually help you dominate. The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Surge 2 and Strike 2. Alright, so you've just jumped into SpongeBob Tower Defense and you're starting to build up your strategy, but there's a little catch. Some of the traits you're gonna get early on are pretty underwhelming. Sure, they seem useful at first, but trust me, you'll want to swap them out as soon as you can. Let's dive into these traits that are kind of meh, and why you shouldn't waste time holding on to them longer than you need to. First up, let's talk about Surge 2. This one increases your unit speed by a tiny bit, about 26%. Now, don't get me wrong, speed is nice, who doesn't love fast units, right? But when you really think about it, there are far better options for your unit's SP, attacks per second, later in the game. So yeah, you can use it for a while, but don't fall in love with it. Once you unlock better traits, it's time to say goodbye to Surge 2. Next on the list is Strike 2. It boosts your unit's damage by a small amount, again, 26%. Now, a little extra damage is never a bad thing, especially when you're just starting. But here's the deal, Strike 2 is really only good for those middle tier units that you're eventually going to replace anyway. The damage boost is decent, but when you unlock those high tier traits, Strike 2 starts to feel like a weak link in your strategy. So why are these traits in the C tier? The simple answer is they just don't pack enough punch to justify holding onto them for long. In a game like SpongeBob Tower Defense, where you're always trying to optimize your setup, having traits that give you only slight boosts won't get you very far. Once you unlock better traits, you'll be so glad you swapped these out. In the end, don't stress too much if you get Surge 2 or Strike 2 early on. They're like those first few training wheels, useful for a little bit, but you won't want them slowing you down in the long run. As soon as you get the chance to re-roll or replace them, do it. You've got bigger fish to fry in the world of SpongeBob Tower Defense, and these traits are just stepping stones to the real powerhouses waiting for you, so don't be afraid to let them go when the time's right. The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Surge 3, Strike 3, and Pursuit. Alright, folks, let's dive into the world of SpongeBob Tower Defense and talk about some traits that might not be the flashiest, but definitely get the job done. You know, sometimes it's not about having the absolute best of the best, but finding something that works, and these B tier traits can absolutely help you out when you're in a pinch. Let's start with Surge 3. This one increases the unit's attack speed, and honestly, who doesn't love some extra speed? It's a pretty simple trait, but speed is never a bad thing, especially when you're trying to pump out as much damage as you can in the shortest amount of time. Sure, it might take a bit of re-rolling to get it, but once you do, it'll help keep your units firing on all cylinders. Don't underestimate the power of speed in a fast-paced game. Now, let's talk about Pursuit. This trait greatly increases your unit's range, and that's definitely a solid option if you're looking to give your units a little more reach. While range isn't always the most crucial stat, it can still make a big difference in some situations. If you're playing a map with lots of twists and turns or need your units to hit enemies from a distance, this trait is a nice addition. But be warned, if you've got the rerolls to spare, you might want to consider looking for something a bit more impactful in the long run. Next up is Strike 3. This one increases your unit's damage, and let's be real, who doesn't want to deal more damage? If your units are rare or are epic, this trait becomes even more valuable. Extra damage means enemies go down quicker, and that's exactly what you want when things get hectic. It's a straightforward and effective trait that will help you clear waves faster, so keep an eye out for it during your rerolls. What makes these traits so great is that they offer you practical options if you're struggling to get your hands on those top tier traits. Don't get me wrong, those high-end traits are fantastic, but sometimes it just isn't in the cards. That's when these B tier options can really shine. They're not the absolute best, but they'll make sure you're not left in the dust. Think of these B tier traits like a safety net. You know, when you're trying to build the dream team of SpongeBob heroes and you can't quite get those S tier traits. Sure, it's not ideal, but with Surge 3, Pursuit and Strike 3, you've got decent alternatives that can carry you through tough rounds. They won't always make you invincible, but they'll definitely help you hold your own. And honestly, that's what makes SpongeBob Tower Defense so fun. It's not just about having the most overpowered traits, it's about finding what works for you and adapting your strategy on the fly. These B tier traits might not be the first picks for every scenario, but they're great options to mix into your builds when you need that extra edge. The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Wealth and Scholar. Alright, let's talk about some of the traits in SpongeBob Tower Defense that can really make a difference. If you've been playing for a while, you know the importance of stacking traits that make your units more effective and easier to manage. But here's the thing. Not all traits are created equal, some are just a bit more clutch than others, and today we're diving into two that you'll definitely want to keep an eye on. First up, we've got Wealth. This trait is like your personal finance manager in the game. It reduces the upgrade cost of your units, meaning you can spend less to level them up. And trust me, that's huge. The more you can upgrade, the more powerful your units become. Imagine being able to upgrade twice as fast, or having that extra little bit of cash to buy some much needed reinforcements when things get spicy. If you're the kind of player who likes to stretch their resources and make the most out of every penny, Wealth is a must-have trait. Next, we can't forget about Scholar. This one is like your personal tutor for leveling up units quickly. Scholar increases your unit's XP gain, which means they'll level up faster than your opponents. In the early stages of the game, leveling up your units quickly is key to surviving, and this trait gives you a solid boost in that department. The faster your units reach higher levels, the more powerful they become, and that can be the difference between a win and a defeat. It's like an XP turbo boost, and who wouldn't want that? Now, combining these two traits is where the magic happens. Think about it. While Wealth lets you upgrade your units more efficiently, Scholar ensures that we're getting that extra XP to level up even faster. It's like creating a snowball effect of growth. Suddenly, you're not just keeping up with the game, you're outpacing it. Those waves of enemies, they don't stand a chance when you've got units that are cheaper to upgrade and level up faster. Of course, these traits are great, but they're not the only ones that can make your team unstoppable. However, if you're ever in doubt, Wealth and Scholar will definitely give you a leg up. They focus on building up your strength quickly and efficiently, so you can focus on what really matters, defeating those pesky enemies and pushing forward. So, next time you're re-rolling for traits, remember these two, because when it comes to building your army, you definitely want to have these guys in your corner. The traits in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Secret Formula and Vortex. Alright, let's talk about the absolute powerhouse traits in SpongeBob Tower Defense, because if you can get these on your mythic units, you're about to dominate. Seriously, if you ever get the chance to unlock these traits, it's game over for your enemies. But here's the thing, unlike some of the other traits where you might be tempted to stack them all on one unit, these two traits, They're so good, you'll want to spread them out and make the most of their insane power. First up, we've got Secret Formula. Now this trait is an absolute game changer for any legendary or mythic units, especially those that are built for raw damage output. Doubling the unit's overall damage, that's like giving a normal unit a second shot at blowing things up. Imagine that on someone like the Krusty Krab, or even better, the Flying Dutchman. If you've got the right unit in the right spot, your enemies won't stand a chance. Just picture how quickly those waves are going to be wiped out. Then there's Vortex, which is the ultimate speed demon when it comes to boosting attack speed. If you have a unit that's a bit slower but hits like a truck, slapping Vortex on it is an easy win. Just picture the Chum Bucket in all its glory with an attack speed that makes it unload its damage faster than you can blink. But wait, don't just think about stacking it on high damage units. Vortex works wonders on support units too. The faster they can buff or debuff, the more effective they become. Imagine a speedy Squidward turning your entire defense into an unstoppable force. Now, when you're deciding which unit to use these traits on, think of it like a power combo. You don't want both on one unit, as tempting as it might be. That would be overkill, and you want to balance it out. So, toss Secret Formula on one of your heavy hitters for insane damage output, then grab Vortex for a unit that needs that extra speed boost to shine. Spread the love and watch your defenses melt through anything that comes your way. In short, these traits are some of the most powerful you can find in the game. They each have their strengths, and when you combine them correctly, you're basically setting yourself up for an epic win. Whether you're doubling damage with Secret Formula or ramping up attack speed with Vortex, the results speak for themselves. So, go ahead, give them a try, and see just how fast you can turn the tide of battle in SpongeBob Tower Defense. Trust me, your enemies won't know what hit them. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.